Worms. Got worms? Well, you should. Here's worms. Worms. This is a good worm bed. Hello, I'm Greg Allison, coming to you today from Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm. And I'm going to talk to you today about why you should buy worms and why you should raise worms even, if you're into that. Not everybody has to raise them, but you really should get worms. Now that sounds funny, but I'm going to tell you why. So, I'm going to do a series of videos here about why buy worms and what to do with worms, how to raise worms, everything about worm farming and using worms. But the most basic question is, why get them in the first place? Why have worms? Why buy them? Why raise them? That's two different questions actually, but I'm going to cover both of these, and then we're going to go into other videos about what are worms, how to take care of them, and all the other things involved in that. But so for starters today, back to the worm bed. Sorry for panning the camera around so fast a minute ago. As you can see, I have worms in here, and they eat my kitchen scraps. Yeah, I still eat watermelons in the fall. I buy them wherever and get them. I love watermelons. And this is a wrapper that one of my lights, my microgreens, came in. I'll do videos on microgreens soon, and you can see they love cardboard, they eat paper, they eat waste. A worm farm is a great recycling center. You can see I lightly feed them here. That's a hen layer mash. And there are actually a lot of worms in here, but it's cold today, so they've gone down into the bed. And now the cool thing about this is a plywood box. And it has 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, 32 square feet in here. The worm bedding is about 1 foot deep, about halfway up this 2 foot wide section. So there's over a cubic yard, about 32 cubic feet of material in here. A cubic yard is 27 cubic feet. I can raise 32 pounds of worms in here at a time. You can have 1 pound of worms per square foot. That's pretty intense. We'll get back to that. Now, why buy worms? Just why buy worms in the first place? You buy worms, especially if you're a gardener, because worms make the best compost, the best stuff you can ever put in your garden. It will make your plants grow better than Miracle-Gro, all that other chemical stuff, and it's not chemical based. It's good for you. Worms in the garden are nature's little garden tillers. Buy them, put them in your garden. The garden will love them because worms aerate the soil as they tunnel through and make all the little tunnels. They do not eat live plants, live roots. They only eat dead plant matter. The cool thing is they take that dead plant matter and turn it into awesome compost inside your garden bed. If you put leaves and mulch in your garden bed, they turn that into the best soil you can imagine. Worm castings. And another thing, they clean it up. No known human pathogen can survive in the gut of a worm. So if you got compost like maybe manure and other nasty stuff in your garden, they will clean it up for you. They make it good. They get rid of the bad stuff. And you know, they gotta have time to work through it, but they work through it really fast. Worms reproduce. They are amazing. They aerate your soil. They make it where the air can get down to the plant roots where they need to be. The plant roots do need some air. It gives them room to grow and expand, for water to get down in there when it rains, but not sit there and saturate the roots. I mean, the water can soak on through. Just like in a perfect pot that you put a plant in, it's got a hole in the bottom. So worms are amazing in so many ways for your garden you can't believe. You really need worms in your garden. And even if you don't have a garden or don't have worms in your garden, in addition to that, or aside from that, I would say you want to have a composting bin with some worms in it, because you know, you're throwing away good plant matter. We're throwing away our topsoil in this country when you eat food and you take the food scraps and throw it in the garbage. Recycle that stuff. It's the best stuff you can put in your plants, house plants, garden plants, whatever. And if you don't use it, give it to a friend. They'll love it. Recycle your kitchen waste. Let's help the world. Let's help the environment. And that is a good way to do it. And you take and make amazing stuff out of it. You take cattle and horse manure, stuff like that. Yeah, if you plant plants in that, it will burn them up. But the neat thing about a worm casting, well, that's the worm poop. When a worm produces a casting, it's got a mucus in it that makes it dissolve slowly over time. Yeah, Mother Nature invented time release long before Miracle-Gro trademarked it. But in any event, I plant plants directly in worm castings. And the beautiful thing about that is it makes them grow like crazy. It does not burn them up. Here you can see this stuff is rich. This is like chocolate cake. And I'm gonna tell you, that's what plants think this stuff is, chocolate cake. And you can make this on your kitchen cabinet, in your closet, in a spare room, in your garage, your basement, in a shed, as long as it's not closed up and getting 180 degrees in the summertime. Look at that guy wiggle. Hey. Anyway, that's the beauty of worms, is for your garden, the worms are great producers. They're awesome. And you can produce worms anywhere. You know, you've seen my videos where I'm in my garden and in my greenhouse, and yeah, it looks like I'm out in the wilderness. But guess what? I'm actually living in a neighborhood. Look, that's my neighbor's house, and you can see the next house beyond him. And there's neighbors all around there. And there's my house. And there's neighbors over there. There's my barn, my log barn. And my greenhouse is back there. I've only got 2 acres here. And so the neat thing about worms, if you buy worms to raise them, you can raise a lot of stuff on a small amount of land. See, one of the reasons I got worms is I asked myself, what could I do on my own 2 feet, on my own 2 acres here to make a living? What can I do? Especially if the things hits the fan, if you know what I mean. Things go bad. This is a ground floor opportunity because everybody's got to eat. And this stuff here makes great food stuff that the worm gardens need, that people are going to need. Because if the economy crashes, people can't run to the store and buy chemical fertilizer and all that junk they shouldn't be buying in the first place. Suddenly they're going to have to use what's natural. And having worms gives you an edge. It's a foot up in that kind of world. And in fact, that's the kind of world we need anyway. We shouldn't be going and buying all that nasty stuff, all those chemicals. We need to be putting natural stuff in our gardens, and that's the kind of stuff we need to eat from, is natural-based food. And this is how you get it, is you use Mother Nature. So back to just the economics of worm farming. Why farm? Why raise worms? In addition to making your own compost for your garden, think about this. As I mentioned, I got 32 square feet of surface area in here, over 32 cubic feet actually of material. 27 cubic foot is a cubic yard. Now I can grow 32 pounds of worms in here at a time. 32 pounds. Now worms reproduce every 2 to 3 months. So technically I could get 6 to 4 harvests of worms out of here. But let's say I turn around and put half of them back because I want to have worms to reproduce in the next cycle. That means I can still get 3 harvests at least a year. So let's say it's just 2 to 3 harvests. Let's say that's all I get. I can do more than that, but let's say it's 2 to 3 harvests. Look at this. I've got here 5 worm beds, all in a small area of land. Oh, I got other worm beds. This is just 5 of them, okay? I got 2 in my front yard. Now think about this. That means I could get, I've got about 100, this means I could actually harvest in a year somewhere from 300 to 450 pounds of worms to sell out of this one area. I'm putting half of them back. Think about it. 300 to 450. You got to realize, if you buy a steer at 1,200 pounds and then you kill him, and the carcass is going to weigh about 750 pounds, but when you get all the meat off of it, you've only got about 490 pounds of meat. This is a steer. A steer requires an acre of land to grow. I can produce, in over a year, I can produce a steer a year right here. A steer a year right here. Just think about it, right here, a steer a year. And I don't have an acre. And guess what? Worm meat sells for more money than beef. I get $25 a pound for this stuff. And on top of that, I get to sell the dirt, which is not dirt at all. This is compost. This is worm castings and worm compost. Actually, this is the compost phase. I screen it to make the castings, to get them out. So this is beautiful stuff. And I can make worm tea from this. I can get 3 products out of this small piece of land here with 5 beds on it. 5 beds, this small area here that would take an acre with a grass farm And guess what? I got other products too. So from an economic density and efficiency standpoint, this makes a lot more sense than raising beef. And I can do it here in an urban farm. Believe it or not, yeah, I got a wilderness back here in my backyard, but I am in a development, a suburb, a development. Now, this development is out in the county. But, so I do have a lot of deer and other things running through here. You might have seen my previous video. I'll give you some stories about building these worm beds in the future, but they only last about 3 years. That's the downside of using this plywood. You can't use treated wood. But in any event, so the economics are amazing for raising worms. The benefits, what you get for your garden, if you just raised worms for your own garden and did it on this scale, you make a lot of compost, a lot of worm castings, a lot of worm tea. Worm tea is an all-natural pest repellent and fertilizer itself. It's a probiotic, great for the garden. And I will cover that in future videos. I'm going to cover how to build these beds in a future video, and several other type of worm beds, smaller scale and larger scale. But in any event, so as I've mentioned to you, why raise worms? Why raise worms? Why buy worms? You buy worms because you can recycle your kitchen waste, you can recycle paper scraps, you can recycle a lot of stuff. So it's good for the environment, and you can make the best stuff for your garden, your house plants, whatever you want, or just give it to friends who do that. If you don't grow stuff, you have friends that do, I'm sure, and they would love to get nice worm castings from you. They would really love it. So it's we've got topsoil in this country that we're basically producing food with, eating it, and we're throwing it in the garbage, and it's gone. Gone forever into a landfill pile with toxic waste. Why don't we want to do that with our topsoil? Please, recycle your stuff. That's why to get worms, because you make the best stuff for your garden, and if you put them in your garden, they're great for the garden, and worms are an economic opportunity. Yeah, there's work, and I will be covering that in future videos. But look at this. Here's a steer a year right here. And that's clear. So I hope you get that. I hope you enjoy that. I've got a lot more worm topics to be covering in the not too distant future. I'll be covering a lot of other things, how to build the worm beds. Eventually I'll get into how to build a log barn, how to build a greenhouse. I'll go into my microgreens. I've got a lot of topics to cover, so stay tuned to my channel. If you like this video, hit like to get the updates, bang the bell. And I hope to hear from you soon, or at least I hope you see a lot more of these videos. And please do subscribe, though. I can use all the subscribers I can get. And I think I'm going to have a fun channel here. You know, I like to kid around, have a little fun, so everything's not so serious. But I also hope to give you a lot of educational opportunities. But the main thing was the basic thing. You have to always start with basics. The basic thing is, why get worms? Why get worms? And why raise worms? Those are the basic topics. Also, by the way, I do sell worms. Go to greengregswormfarm.com. greengregswormfarm.com, and you can get your worms there. So, hey, Greg Allison, proudly promoting global worming. So get your worms from me, and I'll help you get started. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.